Okay. Oh my goodness. This is a challenge for me. Can everybody hear me? I might be recording this live. I'm not for sure. I'm just going to take a peek. Today I'm going to just talk about how to do simple beginner watercolor leaves and put your own spin on it and, create something cool, end up creating botanicals that you can apply variations to and get all different kinds of patterns. So first I'm going to start off in my Arteza sketchbook. It's a brand new one. It's 68 pages. It's premium. It's not cotton paper, but it's a pretty good cold press watercolor paper. I got a couple sheets of arches here to play with after a while to see the difference. And we're just going to start. I'm going to go to page 2 of this book. And my colors here, I'll go over my supplies. I got the Arteza sketchbook, some Arches watercolor. I've got some Daniel Smith colors. I've got my basic primaries, which is Hansa Yellow Medium, Brilliant Orange, Quinacridone Red, Burnt Umber, and Ultramarine Blue. So I'm going to put some water on these and get them activated. I've been kind of spraying them so they'll be softer. I think those are softer. And just get your colors woke up. I got a variety of brushes. I'm going to put this up here. I've also got what I call my granulation palette or my Primatech palette. And here I've got raw sienna, which I'll be using, and Bronzite Genuine, Green Apatite Genuine, Serpentine Genuine, Naphthite Maroon, and Kyanite Genuine. I probably won't be using anything down here, maybe the Naphthite Maroon, but we'll just see. I'll mainly be into these greens and that raw sienna. So we'll put that up here. But I'll start off with these primaries here, and we'll go and look at just some basic leaves. My brushes here, I have a number 8 Princeton Aqua Elite. This is a synthetic pseudo sable, and I like it because it's got quite a bit of snap to it. So I really enjoyed this one. I have a number 4 Princeton Neptune. It's a thin-setting squirrel. It is not as snappy, but it holds a lot of water. It holds a lot of water. And then I have a little cheapo brush that I got. It's black Taklon, and I got it from just a big box store. It could have been Walmart, could have been Michael's or Hobby Lobby. I think it was Hobby Lobby because this says Master Touch on them. And then I have a little bitty brush, 0, just a cheap brush that I'm going to be maybe doing some scrubbing and lifting with. I have this American Journey round number 10, and it has a little bit of a rounded end on the end rather than a point. I have my number 10 Princeton Neptune. That's the same thing. We got, just a brush that is kind of floppy, but it holds a lot of water. So another one we have is, I just picked up an old sponge and cut it into a point, and we're going to try some things with that too. So here we go. We are going to just mix a basic green. So I'm going to take some Hansi Yellow Medium, and I'm going to put it over here next to this blue, because there's already some blue in there, and we might be able to get a green out of that a little bit. So let's go ahead and try this. And my basic leaf shape is, and if you have too much water, it's just going to pour out onto your paper. So I'm just going to tap it on the side and get some of that water off so it doesn't pour out onto my paper. And my basic leaf shape is just press and pull, and it's a C curve, and then press and pull and a C curve. And that is my basic leaf shape. So you can do that with any brush. You can do it with a smaller brush. This is the number 4, press and pull, press and pull. There's your leaf shape. And even with, and this is a rigger brush, and it's a Creative Mark from Jerry's Artorama. And I just use that in the same way. Press and pull and press and pull. Now, because it's not as thick of a brush, it probably, you might have to fill it in a little bit. But I think that's a pretty leaf. So there you go. There's your basic leaf shape. Now, if I wanted to get something a little greener, I'm going to stick with this number 8 synthetic round, and I'm going to make just a botanical shape. I use these shapes all the time, whether it be in my paintings or just relaxing. And that is just bring this, start with my, bring a stem, start with my leaf shape, and then go with my leaf shapes all the way down. And then down the other side. There we go. So that is my basic botanical shape. Now we can take this and we can add variation to this by possibly bringing a little blue into it. Let me get this a little bit wetter because this has already started to dry. So this is blue and Hansi yellow. So if I add blue, it's going to be complementary and it's going to have harmony. I didn't get it the straightest there, but this is just demonstration. So, and then I'm going to add some blue up here. And then let's wet this one up here. Oh, I made that blue. So I'm just going to go down and make them all blue. And that will be good. And that looks kind of pretty. That looks kind of pretty. So let's vary it a little bit more. Let's turn the page. Well, we've got a little bit of room over here. So let's vary it a little bit more and make it a little darker. And this is more like a sap green. If you wanted to make it just a little bit more of a sap green, you could add some orange to it. Oh, I like how I got a little bit of blue on the edge there. And you can give them some lift and movement to them. And that's, I kind of like that right there. But if you wanted to add some veining and stuff while they're still wet, you could come in with the back of a brush and I didn't get to it quick enough. On this paper, you got to go pretty quick because it dries pretty quick. But you can come in and do some veining. And you can just change these leaves all around. What do you think? Where's everybody from? Leave it in the comments. Right now, I'm in the part of the country that is going through a freeze out, and I guess it's supposed to get like 5 degrees tonight. So I am not looking forward to that. All right, so now let's turn the page and let's get a little bit of variation again on this leaf. So I'm going to stick with that same green, but I'm not going to go with as heavy as a wash. I'm going to take some of that pigment off and I'm going to make a light wash, come down, and I'm going to be ready to dab in some darker pigment. I call that charging in. My paper is drying so fast, you wouldn't even believe it. I think it's the heater. I have a baseboard here underneath me. So I'm really having to go through. So I'm going to dab some color in there and just let it be. Just let it be. Just make sure it's wet. That's my problem. Making these leaves a little bit rounder. So I'm just making sure that's good and wet, but no petals. And that's my problem on this cellulose paper is you can get it wet, but part of it dries before the other. So if you do see a petal, just lift it up, dry your brush and lift it up. And then just let that be. Let's do another leaf. Let's do them over here. And you can see that ultramarine blue and that Hansa yellow medium, it's breaking up and it's causing some really pretty granulation. So, okay, getting some just a little bit of color here. And then I'm gonna There's still some dry areas right there. I'm going to get some pigment and then just charge it in and let it go. Get a little bit of pigment. I'm going to have to go back. I can't figure out this StreamYard thing. It's really difficult for me because I'm watching this in the YouTube. I'm watching the playback in the YouTube app and not the StreamYard app. So I'm not exactly sure where the disconnect is because I'm using my phone as a webcam. So maybe that's it. All right, here we go again. We're going to charge in some green and let it be. I'm really liking these two leaves up here. They're really pretty. Really pretty. I think they look like that plant that has green and white leaves. They're really pretty too. Really pretty. So, okay. So let's do something a little bit more different. And let's do another leaf. And I'm going to put some, I'm going to do this wet and wet. And I got to go leaf by leaf because otherwise it's just going to dry on me. Okay, wet. And then I'm going to get some raw sienna and just drop it in there. Come down that stem. Let it be. Don't mess around with it. You get prettier results if you don't mess with it. So I am really, really glad about that. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this stem down. Oh, it kind of curved there, but that's okay. Let's get some more wet leaf. Oh, that had green on it. That's okay. We're just going to go with it. And I'm going to get some raw sienna and tap in there. And maybe I'll get some more green and tap in there. This is such a fun way to get variety in your leaves. Okay, now I'm going to do another one. And I'm not going to do these straight across from each other. I'm going to kind of do them in a different way. This really works better on Arches paper because it's cotton paper and it really takes the water better. Okay, here's some raw sienna. All right, let it be. Let it be. Even if you have back runs, that could be some good texture for later on. I'll do one more. Let's see. Let me get this one wet. That one had some wet raw sienna in there, so it's going to bleed up. That's okay. I like the bleeds. Let's get some of this green. And then let's get some of this raw sienna and put in there and let it be. All right, we'll let that dry, and I might put a little bit more green in there because that got a little olivey on me. So, ooh, I think that one's going to be really pretty. Okay, let's do some different colors. I've got some Daniel Smith Primatech paints up here. And my favorite color to do leaves in is green Apatite Genuine. One reason I like to do leaves in green Apatite Genuine is because it's just such a beautiful green. It's kind of like sap green, and then once it dries, then it has brown granulation come through, and it's so rich, and barely do you need a second layer because it is just so, I mean, yes, I pre-wet my paints, but it is so rich and beautiful. And you don't have to use it this rich, but I just love it because it is so rich. Let's take this down. We're going to make it more of a plant. So I'm just going to drop some water in there so that granulation can be at its peak. So let's do another one. I'm going to do this one pretty big. I'm just using that number 8 brush. It can go from big to thin, and you can add a little bit more in there. This is just such a beautiful color for leaves. Okay, now let me do one more before I go on to add more texture. Just 2 C curves, really. And you can leave a little negative space in there for a highlight. However, I'm not seeing anybody in the chat. Okay, so now I'm going to take some water, and it could be that was in the other YouTube. Oh, I tell you, I gotta figure this out. Now you can take some water and just drop in there and get even more texture. I love this technique. And you're getting blossoms and blooms. And the bigger the droplet of water, the more pigment it's going to push out. I like that dark at the bottom, so I'm going to leave that. Let's put some here. I love this green Apatite Genuine. I will link all the colors I'm using in the description below. I'm going to have to go back and fix it. And then here's some in this one. This is an excellent way just to make water droplets on your leaves. That is just so pretty. I may have put too many in this one. It just looks so natural, and you can see the darks coming out. I'm gonna kind of fix that. I don't like that as much. So it's still wet enough that I can go back in there and add some more pigment and just take that right away. This one so far is my favorite. But it's like this pigment does all the work for you. And you don't hardly even have to do anything else. And you can do light leaves. So say this leaf down here is not as pigmented. Maybe it's a little, it's starting to die. So let's just add some burnt umber. Charge a little bit of that in. And after they dry, we can go back in and add veining or whatever. Isn't that one pretty? That one is so pretty. Okay, so let's go and go back to these while this one dries. And look at that. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I just love that. So there's a variety of things you can do with this. You can do anything. So you could take and add more texture. You could take a sponge and add some texture. I will do that on these leaves. Do it on a couple of them. That just gives some really pretty texture. That's pretty. Okay, you could also, before they dried, you could also put salt on them. I am not going to do that today. Let's see, what else could we do? We could take some colored pencil. This is watercolor pencil. And we could go around the edges. Maybe give it some definition. Easy with it. Maybe some darker shadow towards the stem. Maybe some down the side here. Whoops, that's still wet. And then take a little brush, maybe like this cheap one with a fairly stiff bristles. This is a 0, and it's a fine touch one, and I'm just gonna blend this in. You just have to keep reloading it. Maybe I'll soften these lines. Just soften them a little bit. And that's pretty. That's pretty just like that. And it looks very, very natural. Maybe you could take some colored pencil Here is a Derwent Color Soft. These are my favorite colored pencils. And also the Brute Ferner, or something like that, are also really soft colored pencils. I love these Derwent ones though. They just really, the pigment just comes off of them. And you could do a little mixed media. I love mixing colored pencil. I love mixing media. So there's that one. Okay, that's really pretty too. And really, I'm kind of liking this one with the sponge too. Okay, so let's do something else. Trusty Micron pen. I do love it when you have pen and ink. And you don't even have to be that perfect. Love that. You can give a little movement to it. And go down here. I love that. Oh, I forgot to blend out that watercolor pencil on that side to give that a little shadow. Yeah, and you could even, if you needed some more of that color, you could even take your watercolor pencil and take your brush to it. And you could do this with watercolor too. Yeah, I like that. Really like that. Really do. And I mean, there's just so many other things you can do. I love this lunar black. And you can take it, you can get as fussy with it as you want to. You know, I mean, I could spend 2 hours on leaves. You know, just one of these. Just going detail after detail. Okay, so I'm taking that lunar black and it will granulate and it will show that pigment through. I love that lunar black. Let's get some more and bring it down here. And yeah, isn't that pretty? Green is not the only thing you can do with leaves. So let's go back and look at these. This is not quite dry yet. I still like this as my favorite. It really looks like water drops on there. Don't care for that one. Really love these. So, but this is my favorite. It almost looks like it dried in such a way that the brown settled out with that brush stroke and it looks like a vein. So I'm really liking this, but Green Apatite Genuine is my favorite. But, you know, I mean, some people don't like Primatex, so you can get good colors. But when you mix colors, like when you mix blue with yellow, you can get a good green. However, one color is going to desaturate the other. So we got a really strong blue. I'm just really getting it out there. Okay, and then you have Hansa Yellow Medium. And I just really got a good amount. It's wet, so it's picking up really easy. And when I add to it, oh, that's a pretty color. That's like an aqua. Pretty. But it is desaturated. This Green Apatite Genuine is just really, it's just really saturated with pigment. And when you're putting yellow in with blue, yellow is near orange on the color wheel, so it's going to desaturate the blue a little bit. So let's get a little bit more yellow. And we got another green here. But it's not as vibrant. You know, it's not as vibrant as the blue on its own or the yellow on its own. And even if I added some burnt umber in there, I might be able to get a similar color. Let's see. I'm getting like a khaki brown, khaki green, sort of a okay, so there is a pretty green. It's not as vibrant as this because the brown in this is settling out of the green. So that lets the green shine. I'm going to take the back of this brush and just draw some veins. While it's really wet. And that mars the paper, but that's okay. That's okay. So, you know, I hope you get your paints out and experiment, you know, and not all leaves are green. Some are brown, some are more yellow, like this raw sienna and green up here. This turned out real pretty. And here recently, I have seen a plant that had some peachy color to it. It was an indoor plant, but it was pretty. I don't know where I seen it. I either seen it at Lowe's or maybe a store that had fake plants. Okay, so I'm just going to mix up this quinacridone red with some raw sienna because the color I seen leaned more towards peach than it did orange. So let's go over here and do this. This is the squirrel, Princeton Neptune. I think this has got a little bit too much pigment in it, so I'm going to take it and I'm going to take some of that pigment off. We're just going to let those bleeds happen. We're going to take that down, take some more pigment off, and let that bleed happen over here too. And see this brush is real soft and flimsy, but it works. Let's get a little bit more off, come down here, and now one thing with this brush, you can get it to kind of go flatter. So you might be able to get one stroke, one leaf with one stroke. So put it down, press hard, and then bring it out and lift up. Perfect leaf shape. Perfect leaf shape. I like it. And then after, you can either charge in some darker colors. That's kind of dry right now, but you could probably charge in some over here. You just want it to be wet or damp. Let's charge in some here and here. Now that probably won't go past here because right here is dry. But it can give you some variation. And then after it dries, you can go back in and add some more detail with some brush work. So let's look at some leaf and botanicals I did on arches. I thought these turned out pretty good. And here I did the Green Apatite Genuine and charged in raw sienna. Here I did the peach tones and then did some shadowing with some purple tones. And I got fiddly. I worked on this for an hour. So here I did some yellow and charged in some green. And here I just mixed palette mud and got like a gray color. Because sometimes when I get don't keep my colors separate enough, and then I just get gray. And then I'll just practice my shapes. So then I thought we'd try it on arches to see the difference. That Artisa sketchbook is pretty good. I'm going to put it in the description below. I'm going to use this American Journey number 10 round. And we're going to go, and I'm going to do some longer leaves. And I want to make sure I have good water control. I don't want too much. So I'm just going to go over here and I'm just going to pull up. And that's just in one stroke. Let's put some darker in there. And this is the mix of ultramarine blue and Hansa yellow medium. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's make another one over here. Kind of give it a curve, like an S curve there. Let's put that here. Drop in some more. I'm telling you, it's really hot. I've got it like 75 degrees in this room. But I tell you, I'm just so cold-natured. So now we're going to take this and we're going to bring down a stem. And I'm going to take this and I'm just going to start laying in leaves. Maybe if I want a little bluer, We'll lay in that. Lay in that. Maybe cross over. Lay in that. Maybe go down. Just practice. This is all practice and it's all fun. You know, it is all fun. Took one up from the middle there. I thought it looked a little weird, so. And anytime I think it's getting too samey, I'll add a little different color. Maybe a little more blue. This paper just drinks up the watercolor. Take a little bit of that. And it's the same concept as the other leaves. You're just holding the stroke for a longer period of time. And then that got a little dry on me. So I'm going to go back and pick up some more water. And the same concept. Okay, let's go back and let's do a couple more leaves. That's nice and wet, so let's go pick up some raw sienna and drop in there. And maybe even take some green. It's got a little bit of blue into it. Make sure you got plenty of water. This paper really drinks. This is 140 Arches or Arch 140 pound cold pressed. Now I'm going to drop in some of that. I'm just having some fun. Having some fun. I might need a little bit of, more, but that's fun. That looks pretty good there. So what do you think? So I think I'm going to wrap up this stream and you let me know what you think and, you know, try some leaves. Just get out there and play. I'm really looking forward to spring. So thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks for popping in and we'll see you next time. Bye.